The X-Men House of X Powers of X double feature is a vast work that comprises the restructuring of mutant existence on Earth and its lasting consequences. House of X and Powers of X both cover a wide variety of themes and topics, but most prominently among them, particularly in House of X, are how cultures form and interact with each other. Right at the beginning of the novel, the reader is introduced to the idea that a new planet, Krakoa, has been discovered as the original mutant habitat. Charles Xavier soon discovers this habitat and uncovers a way to create portals enabling access to Krakoa for any mutant on planet Earth. He also announces to the world that he is seeking to relocate every mutant on Earth to Krakoa so that they can form their own sovereign nation made entirely of mutants. After he invites the dignitaries of the world's most powerful nations to explain to them their new reality, Magneto helps to emphasize the importance of language to culture, that without a unique language, a distinct culture cannot form. This represents the first instance of social commentary within House of X, that language can be divisive among cultures but unifying within each one. One of the defining features of the House of X and Powers of X series is that they're meant to be read in tandem. To make the reading experience even more confusing, though, the plot jumps between timelines constantly. When the establishment of Krakoa's plotline picks back up again, Xavier and his appointed council attempt to lay groundwork for how they want to run their new nation, from property rights to economic and environmental policy. The discussion outlines how mutants choose to differentiate themselves from the governing body of humans. They acknowledge that Krakoa is an interconnected consciousness and that owning any part of it would be particularly tricky. This builds upon the previous themes of learning from past mistakes, which I'll discuss later, and working towards a society that is able to avoid the common pitfalls of civilization. While up until now I've mostly talked about the plotlines within the House of X issues, the Powers of X chapters also provide a wealth of social commentary on societal constructs, particularly in how history is recorded and legacies are sustained. One of the arc's central characters, Myra X, has the mutant ability to reincarnate with full knowledge of her previous lives. In her sixth life, Myra is unable to prevent the rise of Nimrod the Lesser, an extremely powerful robot being who wages a war to eradicate the mutant race. While this concept in and of itself certainly mirrors historical genocides, this page showcases how certain groups are victim to harmful stereotypes and generalizations. The mutant on this page, Silabelle, is programmed to infiltrate and betray her fellow mutants, but this genetic subversion leads her to side with her own kin, resulting in her subsequent torturing by Nimrod and his soldiers. This distrust of certain groups of people due to their supposedly innate wickedness has been the base of racial tensions and violence from Executive Order 9066 to the Chinese Exclusion Act. In a similar vein to the othering of certain groups, Powers of X also delves into how societies can alter historical accounts to better serve their own interests. In Myra's ninth life, she lives for more than 1,000 years, during which time humans have been replaced by genetically modified post-humans, with the few surviving mutants being relegated to nature preserves. As shown in this panel, the post-human society considers these preserves a reminder of the past sins of society, and a warning not to let them repeat themselves. This is a clearly jarring view for a presumably human reader, finding out that their entire species is considered a historical mistake. This altering of history is also reflected in numerous countries' pasts, particularly in their refusal to acknowledge periods of ethnic cleansing for the genocides they were. As House of X and Powers of X progress, they generally both move out in scope, both plot-wise and conceptually. As Magneto and Xavier talk to Myra towards the end of the book, imploring her to eventually reveal to the mutants all her past lives and the mutant eliminations that followed, the novel showcases the impressive motivations of Magneto and Xavier. The two believe that they will be able to right the wrongs of their previous lives by working together using the knowledge of Myra's past lives, knowing that their citizens will fall into line given the proper motivation. Similarly, throughout history, large groups of people have been persuaded to act in a way they might not otherwise, having been given the proper motivation from their leaders. One of the eventual conclusions of the Powers of X, as shown in this panel, is that maintaining a sense of individuality among others is ultimately a healthier, more fruitful existence than being part of a united collective. This echoes the overall themes of the novel, that despite repeated attempts to unite mutants under Xavier's leadership, each attempt failed without the unique combination of individuals, such as Magneto and Xavier's partnership, Myra's guidance, and the regenerative powers of a group of mutants known as the Five. History reflects this trend because the authoritarian societies that suppress individual freedoms and emphasize collectivism have historically been overthrown, while the individualistic societies have mostly been able to survive without complications. The House of X and Powers of X arc encompasses an incredibly dense conceptual storyline, one that rewrites the history of mutants within the Marvel Universe and establishes a new normal for Charles Xavier and his associates. Along the way, it provides an insightful analysis of the formation and interaction of cultures, along with the ways in which legacies are preserved and how humans keep themselves going the best way they can.